I went from corporate to education, very, very different everything. To do that, I had to be certain that I wanted to become a math teacher. I spent
Yeah.
1 year tutoring while
Mhm.
still in my day job. So I had an opportunity to experience what it would be like to teach math, not in a classroom, because
Yeah.
obviously that would be hard to do with a full time job in sales, but I was
Yeah.
able to do it in a smaller way, like a micro experiment, something smaller that gave me at least a taste of what I might get into for the rest of my, or at least for the next chapter of my life.
Mm.
And that for me, after I think it took about 8 months of tutoring, maybe a little
Mhm.
bit less, before I was like, okay, this feels really right. And then it was right about at a year of tutoring where I turned in my letter of resignation and I said, it's time. I know I'm in love with this new path and I'm ready to say goodbye to this old path. And I had time to, think about how I would make the transition, build
Mm.
some security, financial security, things like that, which really meant, I mean, because honestly, like this is something I've been thinking a lot about lately. When we hear stories of reinvention or stories of radical pivots in careers, we
Mhm.
often hear the usual, like, oh, I was a lawyer, or I was, a hedge fund manager, or something crazy where you made a lot of money. And then I decided to go become a teacher. I
Yeah.
mean, it's a good story. There are good parts to that story, but is it relatable to the majority of people who may not have a
Yeah.
$250,000 salary? So
Yeah.
when I
Right.
left, I think my salary was 55,000, you know, and maybe 60 tops. I'm not even sure, but it definitely wasn't over 60. It was
Mm.
probably somewhere between 50 and 60,000. And
Mhm.
I didn't make it because I didn't make my transition because it was convenient. I didn't make it because I had a lot of money saved up. On in the United States, on 55,000, you don't get very far. You pay your bills, you pay your
Yeah.
loans at best, and I had a lot of student loans. So I had
Mm.
to restructure my debt. I knew that I was going to ultimately pay more interest, but I saw that as the cost of pursuing my happiness. And I knew that
Mhm.
this next chapter was right for me. So I put all those kind of strategies into play, making sure that by the time I turned in that 2 week resignation, I knew that at the very least I would have a roof over my head,
Mm.
and I would be able to handle whatever loans I was able to restructure, and
Mm.
the ones I had to keep and still pay at smaller amounts. And that, of course, I could, put food on my table and all of that. I picked up
Mm.
extra work. I worked at a mall folding shirts. I tutored. I did a lot of different things as I was transitioning to becoming a math teacher. And by the way, it took 4 years to become a math teacher, from the moment, like a math teacher in the classroom, I should say,
Okay.
from the moment
Okay.
I quit my corporate job to the moment I
Mhm.
walked into a classroom. It was just a little over 4 years. So those 4 years, I went back to school. I learned more. I tutored. I started a tutoring business. I worked for other tutoring companies. I did a
Mm.
lot of things to prepare myself to become a math teacher.
I think we'll sort of like since we've been talking about students and learnings, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think this is something a lot of people would have a question, and I've always wanted to ask a maths teacher. So in mathematics, we study, subjects like trigonometry.
Mm-hmm.
And trigonometry is still fine. Differentiation, integration, right? For
Yeah.
somebody who doesn't want to, let's say, get into software, like get into designing, or get into science as a field, we don't really need integration or differentiation in our life, right? As a maths teacher, why do you think that that concept even exists there?
So this is the number one question you get asked as a math teacher from your students. When will I ever use this in my life, Mr. Osorio? Is the question that I've heard so many times, countless times. And in the process of teaching, I came up with an answer to that I could share, in the form like of a mini talk. In fact, I was eventually invited to a math conference, to a math teachers conference, to share this story in a session. And the story I used to tell my students was, I'd walk around the room and I'd say, um, okay, I go, Tara, tell me what you do outside of school when you're not
Hmm.
here. She's like, oh, I play recreational basketball. I am a dancer. I'm in ballet and all of that. Cool. And I would ask others what they did, and they would list different sports and all of that. And then I'd ask, tell me, what do you do in practice,
Hmm.
for basketball? And they would say, well, we do sprints, we do passing drills, we do General exercises. We do sit-ups and push-ups to strengthen our upper body. Obviously, it's, and all of that. I said, okay. And then I would ask the same student, I go, when was the last time in the middle of a basketball game you did a sit-up?
Mm-hmm.
Well, you can't, I mean, I would never lay down in the middle of a basketball game and do a sit-up. That's stupid. I go, what about a push-up? Have you ever in
Okay.
the middle of a basketball game done a push-up?
Yeah.
No. And yet you do push-ups in practice very willingly, and you get it. I go, math is no different. Math is an exercise, not to math. It's to thinking. I go, that's the sport. That's the game. It's problem solving. The reason I am so excited about teaching you math is not because I want you to be an engineer. It's not because I want you to be a developer. It's not because I ever want you to even be like anything, the numbers. I honestly don't care what you do with your life. The only thing I care is that you do something that matters to you.
Yeah.
But what I do care about the most is that I send you out into the world with the ability to solve a problem, to be able to look at all the variables and all the constants that are presented to you, and for you to be able to figure out what to do. And push-ups are a way to prepare to take a better shot in basketball, to have an upper body strength, to shoot the ball from distance, and all that. And in thinking and problem solving, math is the equivalent of those push-ups and sit-ups. And that's all I'm trying to do here. That's why we do this stuff. Because whatever you do, you're going to have to solve problems. I go, who here has friends? Everyone raises their hands. Who here has ever gotten into an argument with their friends? Everyone raise their hands. I go, who here has ever wanted to help a friend but struggled to figure out how to help a friend? Everyone raises their hand. I go, these are problems. And by the way, the trickiest variables of all are people, because they're variables in math can be predicted. So the work that engineers do is actually pretty easy. But the work that people engineers do, that's hard, because you're dealing with an unpredictable variable with an infinite number of possibilities. Not infinite, like doesn't even capture what humans are capable of. And here you are trying to solve problems, probably among groups of friends. So you're not even just dealing with one, you're probably dealing with 5 or 6, and you're trying to navigate that. That's a real problem. That is harder than any math problem that I could ever show you in a math book. No problem will ever be harder than working with other humans and trying to solve problems among yourselves and humans and your groups of friends, especially when you care about them and you want to do right by them and all of that. By the way, that is a kind of like a parameter because you want to do something, nice, and you want to help. So my mission is simply to teach you how to build that muscle in your brain. I want you to be able to troubleshoot. I want you to be able to solve problems. I want you to be able to look at whatever it is. If you want to be a choreographer one day, you're going to have to come up with a dance. You're going to have to solve a lot of problems. You're going to have a fixed amount of time that you have to do this, create the performance for. They've given you a 10-minute slot. You can't go over 10 minutes or 3 minutes or whatever they give you. And then you have to have 20 people in the group, and you got to figure out, okay, how do we do this? And you got to decide on a song. All of these things. I grabbed based on everyone's interests. So I used their examples only in the room. Somebody said they wanted to be an interior designer. I go, great. My gosh, so many variables, so many constants that you're going to have to work with, so many parameters. This is no different than all the things we do in mathematics. So I go, math is that. So look, my mission is not to make you a mathematician. In fact, you don't even have to like math. You simply have to acknowledge that this is a great way to develop your problem-solving ability and not to be afraid of it, because people have unfortunately led you astray. Most people will try to pretend and act like math is something hard. It is not hard. It is way easier than dealing with people. But, people like to feel special. They like status. So they like to say, well, I'm really good at math, so that makes me special. They are not. Do not ever think somebody is more special than you because they're good at math and you're good at writing or something else. Nothing. None of that is true. So I need you to respect math only for that, just as much as I want you to respect a push-up or a sit-up. I don't necessarily want you to become a world-class push-upper or sit-upper. I don't want that. That would be kind of weird, I think, or something. But I guess if you really want to, go do it. But I don't want that for you necessarily. but I do want you to pursue whatever you want. And I never want a challenge to get in your way of doing whatever it is that you want to do with your life. And so math will help you to do that. Math will make you a world-class problem solver in whatever area it is. And if some of you do fall in love with engineering or whatever it is that uses math, great, that's fine too. It's the same, actually. It doesn't matter to me where you go. I just want you to be happy. And I never want you to be afraid of a subject. I don't want you to go to high school or go to university and pick a major based on how many math classes it has because you're trying to avoid math, which, by the way, I knew a lot of people who did that in my university, and they chose marketing as their major because marketing only had one math class, which was a prerequisite that we all had, and it had one kind of statistics class, but not a real statistics class. And so all the students who didn't like math knew that, and they would choose marketing as their major simply because of that, even though they had another interest, but they chose that because they were trying to avoid math. Such was their fear of math. So, this is what I told my math students because I wanted to address all those things. So I think math is incredibly important. So integrals, derivatives, all of those things, advanced problem solving skills. That's it. Advanced problem solving skills. Whether you need to ever use them on, solving engineering problems is up to you. If that's where you want your career to go, then great. Now you've got the very requisite skill you need in order to do your job. But you don't need to do that job. You can go solve other problems in the world. And there's plenty of problems that need to be solved in the world. And we need good problem solvers. So please go do all the extra classes you can, exercise your mind, train it to solve problems, and then go off into the world and do something amazing with that.
So you have taught at a school, you have been a teacher at a
Yeah.
school, you are a professor at a university currently,
Mm-hmm.
right? And you, like you also said, right, it's compulsory to be in the class until the age of 16, but after that it's voluntary, right? So how has, like, what's the difference you have seen in the students and their mindset when they are in a school versus when they are in a university, especially at a very high reputed university where they've
Mm.
chosen to be there.
Yeah. So really interesting. Uh, the choice part that you just said, chosen to be there.
Yeah.
It may not be compulsory, meaning the law may not be
Yeah.
forcing you to go, but your family, your idea of success, that you think is the definition you must subscribe to, those things could also feel pretty compulsory. They could feel like they are forcing you to have to go get a master's degree or an MBA or a whatever it is. I've talked to a lot of people who you could tell from a conversation that this is not what they really wanted. It's what they felt they had to do. It's what they believed they had to do, even though they didn't want to do it. And that's why they're in it. And so I remember thinking that, oh gosh, like this is still happening, even though I'm teaching at universities. The only difference is these people are paying a lot of money to be here, but just because they're paying a lot of money doesn't mean that they really want this. I think for some, it's a validation they think they need. Honestly, sometimes I want to tell students that, you should quit. Like, I don't think you need to keep paying these bills. Like I wouldn't if I was you. I just had a conversation with somebody at a university, a student that I'm mentoring, and she asked me, if you had to do this all over again, would you do this again? And I said, if this was the moment right now where we are, not then, but now, and I was going through this journey once again, I'm your age or younger than you, and I'm making this decision, I am not sure that I would have to think about it, whether I would do university again. That was what she asked me. And I said, the reason is because the cost has gotten so high that you really have to consider, is this what I need? Is this the solution to my problem?
Yeah.
Can this help me do what I want to do with my life? And that's a question that I think we should all answer before we go. But unfortunately, we don't. What we answer is a different question. Do I have to get my MBA? Do people with MBAs make more money? These are questions that will most likely point you to go get an MBA. But do you really need it to go down the path that you want to go? I don't know. Depends on your path. Certain paths, the answer is Heck yes, you better go get that MBA now. Like you're already late. You should have had it a year ago. And then for other things, no, no, that would just be spending money for fun.
Yeah.
And that's all you would be doing. So it really comes down to the does it solve the job? Does it really do the job? And so students are there. It may not
Mm.
be legally compulsory, but they are there because they believe that they need to be because of definitions, society's definitions of success, what their parents have told them, maybe their parents are making them go, and all of that. So I, to answer your original question, you do see some differences, but they're not as many as you would think. There's still people who go to school because they think they have to go to school. It's just not a legal reason that they have to go, and it's my job as a teacher is, and by the way, I love that I had this experience because it taught me a lot. Is that you're not just there to teach, you're there to help someone see the value in what they're about to experience. You're there to inspire someone to want to be active in this learning experience,
Yeah.
because you don't want them to just sit there passively. You want them to be active members, engaged. And so I need to help you see that. So I, as a teacher, have learned that when I taught math, um, because even if you want to go to school, most students don't, in the United States at least, don't want to go to math. And
Mm.
so I had the class that the least number of people wanted to go to. And so I knew that my challenge was a little different. I'm like, look, my job is not to teach math. My job is to help students see the value in math and then to invite them on a learning journey, a
Mm.
safe learning journey, a non-judgmental learning journey, one where you will not be called dumb or slow or not meant to do math or all the BS that people say. One that is inviting and open and embraces, wherever you are on your journey.
Mm.
That's what I had to create as a math teacher. And when you learn that skill and bring that to other things like startup weekend events where you teach people entrepreneurship, first time entrepreneurs, how to do something they've never done before that they're really scared to do, then you learn how to create a safe space there as well. Yes, maybe they want to be there at a startup weekend because that is something that they truly choose on their own, to attend one of these 3-day boot
Yeah.
camps. That said, it doesn't mean they're not scared. It doesn't mean that they're not scared. And
Yeah.
I still have to help them overcome that fear so that they can open themselves up to learning.
Yeah. Very well put. In fact, Akila and I were talking to a professor the other day, and she said something similar. She said that, see, the content and the knowledge is out there. If somebody wants to learn, they can go around and find, especially with AI and
Mm-hmm.
everything is there, right? But as
Yeah.
professors, we need to ensure that the student is not just there sitting and listening, but actually engaging in the conversation so that he or she is able to understand the concept that you're talking about, right? Sitting and
Yep.
reading, they can do at their own end as well. It is true.
Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely. I agree with every word.